A huge grassroots group has endorsed Bernie Sanders for president. So this is their first presidential endorsement in history, and it's from CPD Action. So let me show you their announcement here. What's it look like when 600,000 families in the CPD network join Bernie Sanders? Hint, last elections was 5 million doors, 65 policy wins, 25 congressional seat wins, 110 state legislative seat wins, and we've only grown. This is the kind of endorsement that actually matters. So there are a lot of endorsements out there, you know, from newspapers, for example, don't really have much of an effect, at least not anymore. An endorsement like this does actually matter because they represent 600,000 families. So this is a coalition of 53 progressive groups in 131 cities across 34 states, as well as Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. And so we're talking about on the ground activists, door knocking, phone banking, people actively engaged in the campaign. This means much more than any newspaper endorsement would ever mean. Let me show you Bernie's reaction to this. He says, "I'm proud to be endorsed by CPD Action. Together, we're going to build a movement for racial, social, and economic justice made up of working class Americans that will bring millions of people together and transform our country so it works for all of us." There you go. I'm also going to read a bit here from the New York Times piece on this. Leaders for CPD Action, which includes liberal groups focusing on immigration, healthcare, housing, and other issues, said Mr. Sanders had seen a jolt of popularity within the organization in the past 2 months, surpassing Ms. Warren. This is the first time the group, founded in 2012, has endorsed in the presidential race. Jennifer Epps Addison, the group's co-executive director, called it a resurgence. Quote, "What Bernie Sanders has built is not arguable," Ms. Epps Addison said. "It is an exciting and different energy than we've seen in the Democratic base." Mr. Torres said, considering the importance of next year's election, he wants to support someone who can match the outsider persona of Mr. Trump. In that view, he sees Mr. Sanders' self-identified socialist label as not an electoral liability, but a strength. Quote, "How we see it, Senator Sanders very clearly distinguished himself from President Trump on politics and style and behavior," he said. And while they approve of Ms. Warren, he believes that in order to win in 2020, quote, "we need the biggest distinction possible." So I thought this was a great point. The fact that Bernie Sanders really is the antithesis of Donald Trump. He is just the complete opposite in every single way. Bernie Sanders has dedicated his life to fighting for the people, has been on the same position, has had the same fight over the last 40 years, fighting for these issues before anybody else, being a leader on these issues. On top of that, he's been a lifelong independent, which means that makes him stand out as somebody that is actually willing to challenge the establishment in both parties. And in addition to that, the media establishment and the corporate establishment in general. Bernie Sanders, I mean, if he wins the primary, the primary is the hardest part for him. If he wins the primary, then the general election, I think, is his. The issue with the primary is a lot of Bernie's base are they're independents, they're young voters, and they're traditional non-voters. So you have to be able to get out people that don't normally vote, independents and young people, into the primary process. That's much harder than getting out, older Democratic voters that typically vote anyways, which is where Joe Biden's support is. So if Bernie's campaign can get out the young voters, get out non-voters, and in states, this is another issue. A lot of states are closed states or semi-closed, and you can't, if you're an independent, you can't vote. You may not be able to vote in your state for Bernie Sanders in the primary, which is why I always say go to voteforbernie.org. That takes you to a page where you can click on your state. It tells you all of the details on, actually, let me do it right now. It tells you all of the, here it is. It tells you what you need to know about your state. So say you are, let's say you're in Minnesota. So go to Minnesota. It's an open primary, so you're good pretty much no matter what. Primaries on the 3rd, and Minnesotans can vote for Bernie Sanders regardless of the registered party. So there you go. And you can put in your email address, zip code, and stay informed. Other states are different. So Nevada is a closed caucus, so you must register as a Democrat to vote for Bernie. and you must be registered by February 1st, 2020. So this is the kind of information you get here. New Hampshire, semi-closed, register by the 5th of February. So here you go. New Jersey closed. Yeah, all that stuff. So go to this page, voteforbernie.org, F-O-R, voteforbernie.org, and click your state and make sure you are registered and you know everything about when you got to vote and be registered.